Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and today I want to show you something very special. I want to introduce you to the wheat cabled Heirloom baby blanket. This blanket, as you can see, has a lot of lovely drape. And let me give you a closer view of some of the cabling in this. It features the large and the small wheat cables using my special cabling techniques and trimmed in this lovely lace. If you're a first-time visitor to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you like the project, I really appreciate if you hit that thumbs up. And don't forget the notification bell so that you don't miss any of the new offerings that I have coming to my channel. And I do have some pretty nice things lined up for you. One more thing, if you're looking for the written pattern, you can find that in my Lovecraft store. All the links that you need are in the video description below. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started.
For this project, I'm going to be using the Eco Fusion, which is a bamboo cotton blend yarn by Nurturing Fibers. And this is Sweet Pea and Blossom. And each of these are a DK weight yarn. Each ball of yarn has 125 meters or 50 grams. And I'm also recommending that you have 2 crochet hooks available. The main crochet hook we're going to use is a G or 6 or 4.00 millimeter. Of course, check your gauge and make sure that you can make gauge with this hook, or if not, feel free to change to the hook that will help you to reach gauge. And you also are going to need one size smaller, and in my case that is an F or an 5 or 3.75 millimeter crochet hook. And as always, I'm recommending that you have a yarn needle handy and a pair of sharp scissors. Well, let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to be demonstrating with the darker pink or the sweet pea color. For my project, I made 5 squares in the sweet pea color and 4 squares in the blossom or the lighter pink, and trimmed with the blossom color. Well, let's go ahead and start these squares. Again, you're going to need to make 9 of these. Start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 41. For row 1, we're going to start with a half double crochet in the third, 1, 2, 3, third chain from the hook, and work a half double crochet in each chain all the way across. You should have a total of 39 half double crochets once you finish this row. Now we're ready to begin row number 2. After finishing row number 1, you should have a total of 39 half double crochets plus that turning chain. I'm not counting that in the stitch count. Okay, so we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to half double crochet in that first stitch, working through the top loops as normal. And now we're going to work the small wheat stitch. And this is how we do that. We prepare for a front post treble crochet. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. And this will be a good time for me to say something about slowing the video down in case I am working too quickly for you. There is a little icon down on this side. For the left-handed version, it's over here. It looks like a little gear. If you click on that, you can bring up the menu for the playback speed, and you can slow it down or you can speed it up. On your cell phones, there's a little 3 vertical dots in this corner for the left-handed. It's going to be over here, and you just click on that, and it also brings up the playback speed menu, and you can click on the preferred speed. That way you can slow me down if I tend to get a little too fast. Okay, so after working those 2 front post treble crochets, we are going to work behind these 2 stitches by coming in the back door right here, and we're going to work a treble crochet around this stitch and then 1 around this stitch. So we are going to find the first stitch. This is a little bit tricky at first. There we go. And then we're going to work a second one coming in that little hole there, and then we're going to work our hook, and sometimes it helps to have our thumb there, and we can just find that second stitch. To do this particular move, you depend heavily on the nerve endings in your thumb and fingers. So that's very helpful. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and we're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. And I promise this move over here does get easier once you do it a couple times and understand what's happening. It does become easier, and it's actually easier on the following rounds. Since we're working in half double crochets, it can be a little bit trickier. Okay, now after we've worked these 2 front post trebles, we're going to work in front of these stitches and front post treble in this stitch and in this stitch. Let's give that another try. Okay, and the next. Okay, now we're going to work one of my favorite fabric stitches. It's called a waddle stitch. It's kind of a filler stitch. And the way we do this is in the very next stitch, we're going to work a single crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet in that stitch. And then we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2. And that way this stitch is going to lay down over those 2 stitches and fill in quite nicely. And you'll see that more as this pattern develops. Okay, so we skip these 2 stitches. And now we're going to work a front post double crochet. Okay, so in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. This is part of setting up the foundation for the large wheat stitch. And now we work a half double crochet in the next stitch right here. Now this is kind of important. It would be very easy to accidentally double dip and put that stitch in top of this stitch, which would add stitches to your row, and you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that when you work in through the tops that you're not working in a stitch that's already been crocheted around with a post stitch, especially on this foundation row. Once we finish this foundation row, it does get easier, I promise. Okay, so now we're going to do that 3 more times. We're going to front post in the next 3 stitches. Front post double crochet, let me be very specific, and then half double in the next stitch. Again, the next stitch is here, so work that half double in there, and then do this 2 more times. Okay, so 3 half double crochets, 3 front post double crochets, don't want to confuse you, and then we do a half double crochet again in that next stitch. So we have 3 groupings, 1, 2, 3 groupings of these front post doubles, and we need to do this 1 more time. 3 front post double crochets, and then after that last set of 3 front post double crochets, we're going to work another waddle stitch in the next stitch, which is a single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, all worked in that same space. Now this is where it's a little interesting. We're going to skip 2 for the waddle stitch, and then we're going to skip 2 more, 1, 2, and then in the next stitch. So as a total, after we've worked this last waddle stitch, we've skipped 4 stitches, and then we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and just like we did on the other side, working behind these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble and the 2 stitches that are closest to these 2, so this one and this one. Okay, because remember these 2 stitches here are from the waddle stitch. So let's work our hook around this stitch here. And then 1 right next to it. Skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and front post treble in the next 2 stitches. let's catch that one there. There we go. And working in front of those last two trebles, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. And in the last stitch, you should have 1 stitch left. We're going to work in the top loops, just like this, and work a half double crochet in that last stitch. And this is what row 2 should look like. Okay, so for row 3, we're going to turn, chain 2, and we're going to start out with a half double crochet in the first stitch. And then after that, we're going to work back post double crochets over the next 8 stitches. This is of the small wheat stitch. Okay, so that's 4 on that side of the cable, and there's 4 more on the other side. 4 back post double crochets. Just use the hook to find each stitch, and you just do them as they come straight across. Okay, now when we get to the waddle stitch, we're going to work only in the chain 1 space. We're going to work a single crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet. We're not going to work in the double crochet or the single crochet of those stitches. Now we go to the part where we work those front post double crochets, which was again the foundation of that large wheat cable. We're going to work 3 back post double crochets over each of those 3. Half double, working through the top loops of that half double crochet. These are our spacers that help to give our cable a little more definition. And then 3 more back post double crochets, and you guessed it, half double in that half double, working through the top loops, and 3 more back post double crochets, half double in the half double, and 3 more, the last 3 back post double crochets over this large wheat cabling section. And then after that, notice that we're not going to work a half double crochet, but we've come upon the waddle stitch again, and again we find that chain 1 space, go right in there. We're skipping the double crochet and the single crochet. We're not going to work in those. And we work our single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, which again is referred to as the waddle stitch. Now we have 8 more stitches here over that small wheat stitch. We work 4, or actually 8 more back post double crochets over those stitches. These rows with the back post double crochets are all going to be worked the same, just like I'm showing you here. Well, close to the same. And then in the last stitch, we work through those 2 top loops and work a half double crochet in that last stitch. Let's go ahead and turn. And this is what you should have at the end of 3 rows. Now let's go on to row number 4. Chain 2, half double in the half double crochet. Now the first part of this is going to be working over these small wheat stitches is going to be the same every time the front side of your work is facing. We skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working behind the last 2 stitches just worked. We come into the back door here and work a front post treble crochet over this stitch and then this stitch. Now this is where it's easy to put your thumb up through there so that you can kind of identify the stitches with your fingers, and it just makes it a whole lot easier to use that sense of feel I can, yeah, get this one. I can feel it with my fingers. You can see it now. I'll just show you again just how they are connected here. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, so now we get to the waddle stitch, and every time you have a waddle stitch, you're going to do the same thing. Single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, only in that chain 1 space. And now we get to the fun part. We're going to get to the part now where we're going to actually cross the large wheat cable. So we're going to skip the next 3 post stitches, half double crochet in the top of that half double crochet, front post treble in the next 3 stitches. This is very similar to the way we worked the other smaller wheat cable, with the exception that there is a half double crochet spacer in the middle. Working behind the last 4 stitches, we're going to come into this hole, and we're going to work front post treble here, here, and then here. Okay, this is 1. And then the second one. And the third time, coming back here, we're going to go around this stitch right there. Half double in the half double crochet. Skip the next 3 stitches, half double in that next stitch. And then we do the opposite on this side. Front post treble in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Working in front of the last 4 stitches, we front post treble in the 3 stitches that we skipped. 1, 2, and 3. Then we get to the waddle stitch and put another waddle stitch, which is a single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, only in that chain 1 space. Skip the next 2 stitches here, front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working behind the last 2 stitches that we just completed here, we're going to come in and work front post treble in those 2 stitches that we just skipped. And do take your time finding these. I know it is a bit tricky at first, but it's very doable once you learn, and there is a bit of a learning curve, but once you get past that, I think you'll really enjoy these stitches. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches. And then half double crochet in the top of the half double crochet. And this is what you should have after 4 rows. Okay, now we're going to do row number 5, which is very similar to what we worked on row number 3, but a little bit different in the middle. Okay, so we're going to half double crochet in that first stitch and 4 back post double crochets, actually 8, 4, and then 4 more over each side of this cable. And then we got 4. I need to do 4 more. One, 2, 3, and 4. And you know what to do by now with that waddle stitch. You work a single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Now this is where it's a little bit different. We're coming to the back side of the large wheat cable. We start with 3 back post double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and right here, which is in between the last stitch and the next stitch, this is the center of the cable, go ahead and put a half double crochet in between those 2 stitches, and then continue on. Back post double crochet in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, half double crochet. Actually, there are 2 half double crochets here. We're going to skip this half double crochet and work only in the top loops of this half double crochet, which is the one in the middle. And in case you're concerned about the stitch count, we added a half double crochet here, so that kind of cancels out skipping this one, so the stitch count does remain the same. Now we're going to back post double crochet over the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then half double crochet in the center. After working that half double crochet, 3 more back post double crochets, and that brings us to another waddle stitch, where we work another waddle stitch in that chain 1 space only, and followed by 8 more back post double crochets over the small wheat stitch. That's 3, 4, and 4 more, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I must say I'm really enjoying the variation in this hand-dyed cotton bamboo. Half double crochet in that last stitch. Let's go ahead and turn and see what we have after 5 rows. And there you have it. Now we're going to go on to row number 6, and starts with a chain 2, half double crochet in that first stitch, and just like we did on the rows here and here, skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2. Like I said before, every time the front side is facing, when you work over these small wheat stitches, you're going to do the same thing. So working behind those 2 stitches, we're going to do front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. What's nice, once you get past the initial row, the first row, second row rather, it's easier to see what you need to do, because this is such a visual pattern. Of course, many of you will need to probably follow the written pattern for a while, but see, skip 2, front post treble in the next 2. But really, once you understand the stitches, it's very easy to just know what to do next. Okay, working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. And waddle stitch, just worked in that chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we are working over the large wheat cable, and this is the easy part for the next 2 rows, or next few rows. Front post double crochet in the next 3 stitches, half double crochet in the half double crochet, and then front post double crochet in the next 3 stitches. We're going to do this across this large wheat cable, half double crochet in the half double, front post double crochet in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, half double in the next half double, front post double in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and brings us to another waddle stitch, work in that chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And after that waddle stitch, we come to the last wheat stitch, skip 2 stitches, front post treble, and the next 2 stitches. Let's go ahead and put these extra strings towards the back of the work, and they will be hidden later. That was not a knot in the yarn itself. It was not in this scan, but I'm actually attaching a new scan. Just wanted to let you all know that. Working behind these 2 stitches, I am going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Doing a lot of skipping back and forth here. And again, your stitch count is going to stay constant throughout. Half double crochet in the top of that half double crochet, and this is what you should have. This is after 6 rows. Now we're ready to begin row 7 with a chain 2, a half double crochet in top of that first stitch there. Now we're going to work 8 back post double crochets. I'm going to go ahead and work these for you over the next 8 stitches. After working those 8 back post double crochets, we work our waddle stitch in the chain 1 of the previous waddle stitch. And now working across the large wheat cable. This again is an easier row. We're going to do 3 back post double crochets and followed by a half double crochet. Let me do this 2 more times. 3 back post double crochets, and then a half double worked in those top loops, and then again 3 more back post double crochets, and we're going to follow that with a half double crochet, and then 3 more back post double crochets. These are the last 3. Remember, after that we don't do a half double, but we work in the waddle stitch. A single crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then we have the 8 stitches of the small wheat cable. So we'll go ahead and work those 8 back post double crochets. That's 4 on that side, and then we have 4 on this other side. 2, 3, and 4, and a half double crochet worked in the top loops of that last half double crochet. Let's turn, and you can see the pattern forming. Now I have an assignment for you. We are going to repeat rows 4, which is the row where the cable was crossed here, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to work that 3 more times. So that's going to add 12 rows to this. At the end, you'll have a total of 19 rows. So again, repeat rows 4, 5, 6, and 7. 3 more times. If you need additional stitch support, which is very much likely, look at the bottom here, and I will have a time mark where you can just bring the video back to that particular time mark, and you can start again with row 4 and work through that 3 more times, and then I'll show you what I have. After completing 19 rows, this is what your square should look like. Now I've gone ahead and done something very important. I have changed to my smaller crochet hook, which is an F or a 5 or 3.75 millimeter crochet hook. If you were using a different size main crochet hook for the body of the square, go ahead and go down at least one size for this perimeter round. To start this round, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip the first stitch, but we are going to work a single crochet, working through both of the loops all the way across the row. So go ahead, and I'll actually work this one with you because there are a couple of differences here as we go across. So we work the first 8 stitches, and this is the one thing that is a little different. When we get to the waddle stitch, we're going to skip the double crochet, and we're going to work 2 single crochets in the chain 1 space and 1 in that single crochet, which is part of the waddle stitch. And for the most part, we're going to work straight through the stitches in the other stitches. I'll go ahead and work this one across with you. Let's make sure we go through the right loops there. I'm working across the large wheat cable here. I'm going to go ahead and work this to the next waddle stitch, and then I'll show that to you. Once we get to the other waddle stitch, we do the same thing. We skip the double crochet, we work 2 single crochets in that chain 1 space, and then 1 in the single crochet, and then we work 1 single crochet in the last 8 stitches across, working over that small wheat stitch. And we're going to also work a single crochet in that half double. And total, you should have 38 single crochets across the top. After you finish going across the top, we're going to turn 45 degrees, and we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and at each row end, all the way down the side, we're going to crochet 2 single crochets in each of those row ends. So 2 on each row end, just like that. At the end of this side to the next corner, you should also have 38 stitches. So the goal as we work our way around with this perimeter round is to have 38 single crochets across each side and a chain 2 corner in each corner. So I'm going to go ahead and finish working along the side to the corner. After working 2 single crochets in each row end, the side should look like this. Now we're going to turn 45 degrees again, chain 2, and starting in the very first chain, we are going to single crochet opposite each of those first stitches crocheted into the foundation chain. And if you're not sure where to put your hook, look for the opposite. Look for the stitch on the other side of the chain, and I'm just covering up or crocheting over the remaining 2 strands of that foundation chain. So go ahead and work this in each stitch all the way across the bottom. After working those single crochets all the way across the bottom on that foundation chain, go ahead and chain 2. We've turned 45 degrees once again, and if you'd like, you can actually crochet this side stitches over the original strand, and it would actually help to hide the one strand for these squares. So we're going to start just like we did on the other side. We're going to work 2 single crochets in each row end, and as you see, I'm crocheting over that strand to be hidden very effectively once I'm done with the next several stitches. So go ahead and work that all the way across until you get to the next corner, and I will show you the join. After crocheting those all the way up the other side, chain 2 and join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of the round. Go ahead and give it a chain and a tug, and make sure you cut a generous strand so that it will be easy to hide using your yarn needle. And I would actually suggest that you go ahead and hide this strand right now, and I'll just give you a real quick demo on how easy this can be. By hiding them now, then you don't have to go behind and hide all the strands on all the squares once we finish this. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to just bring this down into the back side. Just like that. So after bringing that back to the back side, I'm just going to go ahead and let's see. There are a lot of different options here. I'm going to run these underneath the single crochets that we just created. And give it a little bit of a tug, might be a little bit tight. There we go. And I'm going to do a few more stitches just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, that should be plenty right there. And so after we do that, we're going to clip it as close as we can, but make sure you don't clip your beautiful stitches there. Pull back on it a little bit, that helps to hold it. And your square is now complete. So I would set this aside, and if you're using the same colors that I am, you're going to need to make 4 more in the darker pink color and 4 separate in the lighter pink color. So you'll have a total of 5 of one color and then 4 of another contrasting color. Once you complete those and hide the strands on them, I will show you how to connect them. Now that I've completed all 9 of my squares, you should have 5 in one color and 4 in another if you're going to duplicate what I'm doing. Another idea, if you just wanted to make all 9 squares the same color, that would certainly be fine. Okay, now I am going to lay them out in a particular configuration. I'm going to put a picture right now in this video so that you can see. And as you can see, the top of the one in the far left corner is going to be like this, with the last row worked up at the top. And then the second, or the contrasting color, will be going horizontally. Okay, so you're going to have a vertical design, then a horizontal, and then next to this, another vertical with the pattern, with the top being right up here, the last row worked. Okay, so we're going to use the knurl stitch to connect these, and we're going to work this with the front side facing up towards us. So once we determine which square is to be positioned in a particular place, we're going to go ahead and put them back to back so that the front side is facing. Now I'm going to be using my smaller crochet hook, which is the F or 5 or 3.75 millimeter. And I'm going to be starting in the upper left-hand corner. This is if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you'll be doing the opposite. It'll be the upper right-hand corner. And this is a stitch called the knurl, or reverse single crochet, and it is worked from left to right for right-handers, or right to left for left-handers. And I'm going to make a little slip knot here. And I am working in the chain 2 corner. That's where I'm going to be starting. And go ahead and give that a chain. And starting in the very first stitch, we're going to put our hook through the top loops of that one square, and then top loops, which is where that slip knot was made, of the other. We pull a loop through, yarn over, and pull through 2. It's a little bit tricky, but once you get the hang of it, just take it slow. We'll put our hook through both loops of both squares, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. And we're going to do this all the way across. I'm going to work a few of these with you. Now if this is too difficult, you can always just use a simple slip stitch, but I think the knurl stitch, with as much trouble as I know it causes some of you, I still think it is worth the fight, and it creates a beautiful, beautiful join and a lovely raised texture on your design. So what we're going to do is do this all the way across, and we're going to connect the 3 top squares going from left to right, and then the next 3 squares I'll show you in just a second. But for now, let's go ahead and just finish this stitch. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So go ahead and finish this knurl stitch all the way across, and I'll show you how to end this at the end of this row. After working that reverse single crochet or crab stitch or the knurl stitch all the way across, we're going to make one more stitch in the chain 2 corners, and this is a reverse slip stitch. We just stick our hook in that corner and that chain 2 corner, pull the loop through, and pull the loop through, and maybe tighten it a little bit so there's not an extra loop there, and give it a chain and another tug, and clip the strand so that we can hide that later. And we are done with the connection. Let's take a look at what we've done. So this is the seam that we've created. It's a nice raised seam. And so now what we need to do is do this again for this square. And remember, put the back sides together so that the front sides are facing, and we will join with another slip stitch to this corner, and then work all the way and to the chain 2 of this corner. And if you did the single crochets correctly with 38 stitches per side, all the sides should match up stitch by stitch. Okay, after we've completed this, we should have 1, 2, 3 connected. So this will be the top section, and then the next section would look like this. Notice how the squares are alternating in the direction the cables are going, either horizontally or vertically. And I'll do the third, do one more, but I wanted to show you how to connect these panels. So once you get 2 panels, or 3 panels actually totally, and you can also add more squares if you wanted to make this larger. But once we do that, we're going to put these rows of panels together. We're gonna crochet them together in the exact same way, and I'm going to go ahead and just get you started on this one. Let's talk about it for a minute here. I'm going to join with the slip stitch to the chain 2 corner, and we're going to go all the way across. When you get to the chain 2 corner, we are just going to treat that as if it is a stitch as you go straight across. So we'll make another knurl stitch here and another knurl stitch here in this set of chain 2 corners, and then continue all the way across in the same manner. I will go ahead and get you started one more time because I know that's a bit of a tricky stitch. So we're going to make a slip knot, pull it through the chain 2 corners, give it a chain, and now we're ready to begin the knurl stitch, starting in the very first stitch, just like that, and so on and so forth. Let's see if I can give you a better view. There we go. And do take your time on this. The stitch can frustrate you, but if you don't think about it too much, I think you'll like this eventually. One thing, a note to seasoned crocheters if you've never done this before, don't try to control where the strands fall. Just let them fall where they may, and I think you'll enjoy this stitch a whole lot more. It's important that you just maintain normal tension in your non-dominant hand holding the yarn, and I think as long as you do that and just work at it a little bit, it should be fine. And again, if this is absolutely hopeless, feel free to either sew it together with a yarn needle and the yarn, or even just use a slip stitch. I don't believe that would compromise the design at all. It'll just give it a slightly different look, and I think it will still be beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish sewing or crocheting rather, all of these squares together, and then we can start on the perimeter rounds for the finishing section. Okay, I've just finished crocheting all the squares together. I'm going to put a picture at this point so that you see what this looks like at this point. And I am just really loving this. The border, or by connecting it with the knurl stitch, has really stabilized these squares and has already given it a lot more shape than what it had before. And working the border is going to add more shape to that. I did not block the squares individually because I knew that it would stabilize more once I connect them. So let's go ahead and get started on that. I am going to be using my smaller hook, or the F or 5 3.75 millimeter crochet hook as I begin this border. And I'm going to be using the lighter color pink, which is the same color as the 4 squares that we used. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin this border. I'm going to be starting in the upper right hand corner of the baby blanket. Now you can start in any corner that you like. Actually, it really doesn't matter, but one of the 4 corners of the blanket. Going to start with our slip knot, and I'm going to go ahead and join with the chain to that chain 2 corner. Now the first thing we're going to do is single crochet in that first stitch, and then the next 10 stitches. So we're going to do a total of 11 single crochets to start. Now we are going to chain 7 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are going to turn, and we are going to skip 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the next stitch, we are going to work a single crochet, and we're going to turn once again, and we are going to work 10 single crochets over this chain 7. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to single crochet in the next 21 stitches. After those 21 single crochets, chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, turn, and working in the single crochets just crocheted, we're going to skip 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and single crochet in that 7th. Turn again, and working in the chain 7, work 20 single crochets. I'm sorry, 10 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that is going to be your repeat all the way across to the next corner. One thing I forgot to mention, I just want to be very clear about, is as you're crocheting these single crochets, the 21 single crochets across, make sure that you use the chain 2 space also as a space. So I'm working in that chain 2 space and in the next chain 2 space and in each single crochet as I go across. Just wanted to be very clear about that because you are going to need those spaces for the stitch count. Once you've worked that all the way across the row, let me just show this to you. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the loops with the single crochets with the chain 7 and 10 single crochets, and then we're going to single crochet in the last 3 stitches, 1, 2, and then we're going to do another single crochet in that chain 2 corner. Go ahead and chain 2 and then put another single crochet in that very same corner, just like that. Now that we've turned the corner, we're going to just repeat what I just showed you as we started here. So this would be our first stitch, first single crochet, and then single crochet in the next 10 single crochet, just like we did the first time after we joined. So go ahead and repeat what we just did along this side across every side of the blanket. And when you get to the corner, after you crochet those last 3 stitches, as you go across the side, chain 2 and then a single crochet in that same place, and that will be the first single crochet of the 11 stitches that you crochet to start the next side. So go ahead and finish that all the way around. Once we get to the corner of the last side, we're going to chain 2 and then single crochet again in that corner space, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the very first stitch of the round. Now, one other thing I should mention is that as you get to the end of each side, if you have maybe 4 stitches instead of 3, don't worry about that. Just go ahead and crochet the extra stitch. It's really not going to matter here or there as we go along, but you should have 6 of these loops on each side of the blanket at this point, and they should all be pretty much symmetrical. Now as we begin round 2, we're going to chain 1, go ahead and single crochet in the next single crochet. We're going to skip the next 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then working in the first single crochet of the arch here, we're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch. Now we're going to make a picot by chaining 4, and we're going to single crochet in the first of those chains, just like that. And then we're going to do that again for the next 8 stitches. We're going to double crochet in that next stitch, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then single crochet in the first of those of the chain 4 for another picot. And we're going to do that a total of 9 times, and then plus another stitch. I'll just go ahead and do this with you a couple more times. And single crochet, and I'll do one more single crochet, chain 4, single crochet in the first chain. So go ahead and do that until you get to the last stitch on the arch. After finishing this section, we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and in the next stitch we are going to work a smaller fan, which is going to be made up of double crochet, again chain 4, and single crochet in that first chain for the picot. We're going to do this 3 times, so that is 1, and this is our second double crochet with the picot. And we're going to do it one more time, double crochet, chain 4, single crochet in that first chain for the picot, and then we're going to do another double crochet without a picot. Now we're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the next stitch, and then we're going to repeat this again. So I'll go ahead and do this one more time for you. Skip the next 2 stitches, and then starting in the first single crochet, we're going to work the double crochets with the picots. And I'm going to do this a total of 9 times. So go ahead and work these 9 double crochets with the picot. I'll show that then I'll show you what to do after that. So after working the 9 double crochets with the picots, we do just a double crochet in that last single crochet of that arch. Now we're going to skip 2, 1, 2, single crochet in that next stitch. Now we're going to skip 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then in the next one we're going to work 3 double crochets with the picots. I'll go ahead and just work them with you. So that's 1, all worked in that same space. And that's 2, and we need to work 1 more. 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, single crochet. Let's get it in the right place here. Third time is the charm. There we go. So after working those 3 double crochets with the picots, then work 1 more double crochet by itself. Skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in that next stitch, and then do it all over again. So this, I'll show it to you again. This is what you should have along the edge. And so we're going to work this all the way to the first corner. After working this all the way to the first corner, we're going to skip the last 2 stitches, and in the chain 2 corner we're going to work a single crochet, chain 4, and make a picot in that chain, and then do another single crochet and make another picot, single crochet in the next, in that first of the 4 chains, and then one more time, single crochet, chain 4, single crochet in the first chain for another picot, so that you have made 3 picots in that corner using the single crochets. Now we're going to, after working that 3rd picot in that single crochet, go ahead and skip the first single crochet and single crochet in the next stitch right there. Skip the next 2 stitches, and we're back to working the pattern stitch along this edge, which again would be a double crochet and a picot worked in each stitch, just like we worked along the side. So continue working this all the way around, working this pattern as I've showed you, and then the corners as I just showed you here with the 3 single crochets with the picot. At the end of this round, I've already worked that last corner. Go ahead and join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round and give it a little tug there and give it 1 chain, and go ahead and cut a generous strand, and we'll go ahead and pull that on through, and we are almost finished. Now we do have quite a few loose strands to hide, as you can imagine, and I'm going to give you a really quick tutorial right now on how to do this. Okay, using the yarn needle, it really does make it a lot easier to deal with, and we're going to be hiding these on the back side. So go ahead and thread that needle down into a stitch. And there are a number of different ways of doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and continue down to this row of single crochets. Be very careful about how I do this. This yarn with the bamboo can be a little more slippery than the eco cotton, but that's kind of nice in that it gives it a really nice, beautiful drape, but it can make hiding the loose ends a little more challenging. So you need to make sure that you run the stitch under enough stitches, or the loose strands under the stitches, so that they are hidden well and that they will not pull out on their own. I think that's going to be fine. And then go ahead and clip the strand rather, as close to the work as you can, but without, of course, cutting the stitch. So that first strand is well hidden, and let's go ahead and take a little look at this blanket. You can even tell just from the little bit of motion here just how much drape is in this beautiful yarn.
Well, I hope you enjoyed making this cable baby blanket with me today. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. God bless. Bye-bye.